A Karen, who had constipation, felt her life-threatening emergency was more important than my unexpected labor and the health of my unborn child. She went on an idiotic tangent on how we don't need more people on Earth. Here's what happened. So, I'm a 28-year-old pregnant woman, at the time being 9 months along, and I was just rushing to the hospital for an unexpected labor. My husband was driving me, and we were both so anxious and worried about the health of our child and ourselves. We had no idea what was going to happen, but we knew we needed to get to the hospital ASAP. As we pulled up to the reception desk, I was met with a woman who is the Karen. She was loudly demanding to be seen by a doctor and was arguing that her emergency was more important than mine, and insisted that she be seen first. She was yelling and using a lot of curse words, claiming that her stomach pain was life-threatening and that she could die. The receptionist, who was trying to calm her down, kept telling her that they would help her as soon as possible, but Karen wasn't having it. She started making hurtful comments about babies and how the world doesn't need more people. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I couldn't just sit there and not say anything. I spoke up and told Karen that my baby is just as important as her own emergency, that it's not fair that she's trying to make me feel guilty for having a baby. She looked at me with disdain and said something along the lines of, "You're just a selfish woman who's bringing another mouth to feed in this world. Don't you understand the population problem?" I was taken aback by her response. I couldn't believe someone could be so heartless and cruel, especially to a pregnant woman. I tried to remain calm and explain to her that my child is not a problem, it's a blessing. I told her that my baby is not just a mouth to feed, it's a human being who has a potential to make a difference in the world. Karen rolled her eyes and said, "You're just an idiot who doesn't understand the harsh reality of the world. You're just bringing another burden to the society and draining our resources. I am more important, you fool." I was getting more and more upset, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I raised my voice and said, "You have no right to judge me or my child. You don't know the first thing about me. You're just a selfish prick. The world doesn't need you." Karen retorted, "Oh, please don't act like you're some kind of saint. You're just as bad as me. You're just trying to bring another piece of waste to the world, and you're too selfish to see that." I was getting angrier and angrier, and I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted, "You know what? Why don't you shut the frick up, you piece of shit?" At this point, I was in so much pain and trying to stay focused on my labor, and this woman's attitude was only making it worse. But I couldn't just let her continue to be disrespectful like that. The argument escalated. I don't really remember what it was about. A nurse intervened and took me to the labor room, leaving Karen still arguing with the receptionist and staff. I was so relieved to be able to focus on my labor. In the labor room, as I was going through the contractions, I couldn't help but think about Karen's entitlement. Like, who does she really think she is? My husband tried to distract me and keep me calm, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of anger and frustration. After several hours of labor, I successfully delivered my baby, and I was overjoyed to hold my new baby in my arms. It was a reminder of the beauty and importance of new life, and how much love I have for this little human being. Her name is Emily, in case you were wondering, and she's cute. But you know what kinda ruined the moment? As I was holding my baby, I was in awe of how beautiful my little child was. But this annoying encounter kept lingering in the back of my mind. I couldn't believe someone would be so disrespectful of a new mother and her baby. I'm just so grateful to have my baby safe and sound, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And to top things off, I later came to realize that Karen, who had been discharged from the hospital, was still arguing with the staff about her bill. My husband, who had been talking to the doctors and receptionists, informed me that Karen's emergency had just been constipation, and that it could have been treated by drinking more water. This stunning revelation further made me believe Karen is a large piece of shit. So there you have it, my story of how an entitled Karen felt her constipation was more important than my unexpected labor and the health of my unborn child. Wow, what a story. It's pretty crazy. I really cannot believe how some people can be so entitled and selfish. It's insane how Karen felt her life-threatening illness. Constipation was more important than a woman in labor. I mean, come on. It's not like Karen was dying or anything. It's just constipation, a problem that can easily be solved by drinking more water. It's ridiculous how she went on a tangent on how we don't need more babies. Like, that's just stupid, haha. I feel for OP and her husband, having to deal with Karen's nonsense during such a stressful and emotional time. But I'm glad everything turned out okay, and that they have a beautiful new baby. A Karen and her daughter confront me while I'm blind, with a guide dog, and accuse me of lying about my disability, despite me showing her proof. Security ends up getting called, and one of the guards does not believe me. Here's what happened. You know, it's actually sad how often this sort of thing happens. I mean, being a blind girl, instances of ignorant people are daily, but entitled parents represent a certain level of infamy for me. But this one just happened, so, hey, why not make myself feel better by making you guys read about my misfortune? The people involved in this story is me, an entitled mother, and 2 security guards. So since my parents are more at risk from the COVID, I've been going shopping alone more and more often during the pandemic. Yesterday was one of these cases. Grocery shopping is a more involved process for a blind person. I have to ask a staff member to assist me. I also have my guide dog, Gumbo, inside with me. The dog in itself increases the instances of bad experiences. Now, during my shopping, I always get a wide array of reactions to my dog. But one in particular occurred towards the end of my shopping. I heard loud footsteps, followed by the loud screech of, "That doggy is so cute, can I pet him?" It was obviously a small child by the voice, so I prepared myself before responding that no, my dog cannot be touched due to him being a guide dog. Surprisingly, the child didn't act entitled, but seemed surprised and excited about a dog having a job. She, I believe it was a she, asked me a few questions and then left. I thought nothing of it and continued with my shopping. After I finished, I decided to stop by the food court on the way out for some lunch. So I went and made my way across the supermarket. I ordered my food, sat down, and waited. But by some cosmic gracing of bad luck, that is the exact moment that this child and their parent decided to walk close by. I heard the child tell the mother about what I told her, about how my dog is working as a guide dog, that I'm blind, and use him to get around, etc. The mother isn't really saying anything, but I can sort of tell by her tone and the few words she does say that she is seeing some issue with what her daughter was told. I decided to listen in, and after the daughter finished her babbling, the mother came up to me. Now, as I said, people coming up to me is super common. I thought nothing much of it. However, the first words out of her mouth were, "Why did you tell my daughter you're blind?" Her tone was very harsh, very accusatory. I immediately knew what was coming, but, as usual, I put on a smile. "Because I am blind. Your daughter asked me about my dog, so I explained what guide dogs are and why we use them." "Liar, you're not blind." "Excuse me?" The straight-shooting words caught me off guard. "Do you need me to repeat myself? You're not blind. My cousin is blind, so I know what a blind person is like. You shouldn't lie about that. I think you should let my daughter pet the dog. She likes dogs. It's pretty bitchy to refuse a child something like that." My cackles rose slightly. "Well, ma'am, not all blind people are the same. Just because you know a single blind person doesn't mean you know how all blind people are. And as I already explained, your daughter can't pet my dog due to him being a seeing eye dog." "Why are you lying? Your eyes are completely fine. You're using a phone. Don't say you're blind if you're going to show you're not at the same time. Why would you lie about this?" "Excuse me, but I am not lying. My eyes looking fine have nothing to do with anything. Not every blind person's eyes look the same. Look, you're stressing me out. I'd rather you just left me alone." "My daughter wants to pet your dog. She's been well-behaved all through today, and it's more than reasonable to let her pet the dog." I said no. I don't know why you can't just accept my answer. You said no using that bullshit excuse. You're honestly starting to piss me off. I don't know who you think you are, but I happen to work for some company. I forgot which one. And if you don't stop it, I'll get security to throw you and your fake guide dog out of here. Now I'm sure you get the picture. This went on for a good 5 minutes of her getting progressively more and more angry at the fact I wouldn't let her daughter pet my dog. The daughter was actually silent through the whole thing. I don't really think she even cared that much. The entitled mother, however, was another story. Eventually, she screamed out, "That's it! I'm going to get security. If you're smart, you'll be gone by the time I get back or you'll regret it." I snorted at her small fit and heard her huff and storm off. By that time, my food had arrived, so I started eating. I didn't really believe she'd go to get security, but with entitled parents, you cannot be sure. About, 5 minutes or so went by of me eating. I was enjoying my fries, browsing Reddit in bliss, but of course, she returned. I heard her stupid stomping from like 15 feet away, and she was raging onto an apparent security guard. "Look, that's her. You see? She's sitting there with a dog. She says it's a guide dog, but she's not blind. You have to kick her out. Dogs aren't allowed." I sighed and removed an earbud to prepare for the incoming ordeal. A deep male voice sounded from a few feet in front of me. He sounded rather harassed. Miss, is this a service dog?" "Yes, it is. He is a seeing eye dog. I'm allowed to take him in here. I have a copy of the appropriate law if you need it." "No, that's fine. I know service dogs are allowed. This woman is saying you aren't disabled, though. Is that true?" So I say, "No. She's just angry that I didn't let her daughter touch my dog. I honestly don't know why she cares." "Because you're a liar. I told you I have a blind cousin. Don't try to tell me I don't understand blind people because I do." I directed my attention to the security guard and said, "I've tried to explain to her that one blind person doesn't represent all blind people, but she doesn't seem to get it. Could you please ask her to leave me alone? I just want to eat in peace." "So you are blind?" "Yes, I am. Can you prove it in any way?" No, how could I do that? And why?" "Well, it's just that she is saying one thing, you're saying another thing. I don't exactly know who to believe, but yeah, I see how proving you're blind doesn't really work. He then spoke to the women and asked, why is it exactly that you think she's lying? She responded, are you serious? Are you thick? Look at her eyes. They're not white or cloudy like blind people's are. She's literally looking at a fucking phone. The guard spoke to me. What's your response? I sighed. Maybe her cousin has those eye symptoms, but not every blind person does. Those symptoms are caused by diseases like cataracts, which I don't have. As for the phone, devices have been accessible to the blind for years. I find it surprising she has a cousin who is blind and doesn't know that. No, I saw you look at the phone. You were looking at it. I have basic light perception. I can detect light. I direct my eyes to it out of habit because that's where my hands are occupied. Look, it's not my job to educate you on what you don't know. I spoke to the guard. Please just ask her to leave me alone. I don't care if she doesn't believe me. You don't need to stand here and mediate a back and forth as if we're going to agree. I'd just like her to stop talking to me and leave me in peace. I'm feeling extremely harassed. The guard then responds, yeah, I get that. It's just that I can't know for sure if you're blind, so she might have a valid point. I was furious. What? That applies to every blind person. How can anyone prove that? If she has no reasons for me lying, then shouldn't you just give me the benefit of the doubt? I don't know. She said her cousin is blind. She probably knows something about it. I paused for a second. Wow. I'm not even going to bother. Look, if you're not going to get her away from me, then I'm just going to leave. Thanks for failing to protect a disabled patron. I stood up to leave, my dog getting up to guide me. I took a few steps and suddenly felt someone grab hold of my harness handle tightly and pull me to a stop. It was the mom. Wait, I said I wanted you to let my daughter pet the dog, then you can leave. No, get off my harness. Get off. Now understand, grabbing my harness is akin to someone taking away your eyes. She was impeding my means of navigating, so I panicked. This has only happened to me once before and I panicked then too. I attempted to pull my harness handle back, all the while screaming, "Get off! Let go! Help!" And her screaming in my ear about, actually, I wasn't exactly listening as I was too busy screaming, but I assume it had something to do with her daughter. The security guard was fumbling around fairly uselessly. Eventually, another security guard hurried over. I heard him bark out, "What's going on? She's taking my guide dog! Help me! She won't let go!" The entitled mom responds, "No! She's supposed to let my daughter pet her dog! He said so!" I assume she pointed to the guard. The guard didn't respond, but the way the conversation went, it seemed like he non-verbally indicated that he hadn't said that. "Miss, let go of the lady's dog right now, or I'll escort you out." "No, she's not blind. The dog isn't real. Don't just jump in and assume you know what's going on." I had calmed down slightly so I could speak in a more coherent manner. "Please just get her off of me. I want to leave. I don't feel safe. Let me leave." The guard then asked me, "Hey, you're all right, miss. Everything's gonna be fine." I then felt the woman's hand being forcibly removed from the harness handle. As soon as I was free, I immediately commanded Gumbo to lead me to the exit. We walked quickly. I heard the woman screeching loudly behind me, the man shouting, "Calm down! Just stop screaming!" I was still somewhat panicked, but I was able to calm myself down as I hurried towards the exit. It was so chaotic I very nearly forgot my shopping where I left it at customer services. Because I didn't want to have it around me in the food court where it could be snatched, I left, called a taxi, and came home. It has really stuck with me for the last couple days. But the worst part is that these types of interactions are an almost daily occurrence. Blind people are the targets of constant harassment in public. This woman just went farther by physically assaulting me. I know I could have and should have gotten her arrested, but honestly, I was just so panicked I wanted out of the situation ASAP. So why am I telling this story? In short, spreading awareness. It's important for people to know more about the blind experience and what blind people have to deal with. It's also super important to say, if you're ever a witness to a situation like I just described, intervene. Had that second guard not intervened for me, the situation would have been a lot worse. That's terrible. I get that with light awareness you don't wear the classic tinted blind glasses, but even I know, I haven't seen or met anyone who is blind, that not all blind people have milky eyes. I would personally call the mall or store you were at and complain to the manager or supervisor about what happened. Even if you weren't blind, she shouldn't be able to pet your dog if you didn't want her to. That's just messed up. An entitled dad falsely accuses me of pretending to have an injury in order to get high on pain medication, and then physically attacks me. Yep, here's what happened. So some backstory, I had just left the hospital about a week or so ago due to really bad pain behind my knee. So bad that I couldn't sit, stand fully upright, walk, lay down, nor bend or fully straighten my leg. It came out of nowhere and got progressively worse every day that I ended up bedridden for 2 weeks. Also to note that even though the summer heat is coming to an end where I live, I drank plenty of cold water to the point where I'd have to get up every hour to use the bathroom throughout the day. The pain was so bad that I would lose the urge and would just lay in bed all day, not even wanting to get up to eat or pee because it was so bad and sensitive to the touch that any movement would make me wince. Doctors were baffled, so there was a CT scan and an MRI done, as well as bringing in an oncologist because I had a large mass of fat behind my leg, a tumor about the size of a football. Hearing oncologist almost brought me to tears as I feared for the worse. Turns out what I thought was a really bad cramp was actually torn tendons and ligaments in my leg. I hadn't fallen or hit my leg against anything, which is what confused everyone, and the large mass was just a fatty tumor, nothing too serious according to the doctors and surgeon. No operation was done, it's not cancerous, and I was told in a few weeks the swelling would go down and my leg should heal naturally. I've been using a walker since discharge, and just recently the pain is much more tolerable that I no longer need it, but still use a walking cane because there's still a chance I could fall, and I won't risk it for a biscuit. Now that that's out of the way, on to the story. I've been given hydrocodone upon discharge for the pain, but only for 3 days as it's pretty strong and one could possibly get addicted. So I've been taking Tylenol after my meds ran out as it's the strongest OTC medicine I could get. I have to keep my leg either very still while laying down or constantly moving it, i.e., walking, as it hurts if I stand still for too long. This incident happened 2 days ago. Instead of sitting at home doing leg exercises in bed and waiting for my dad to go bring me pain meds, I decided to go with him to keep myself moving, hoping it would help me, plus spend more quality time with him. We've had an on and off bumpy relationship. So we head to the pharmacy, and once we're there, I decided I also wanted some jacket snacks. I inform my dad about this, and so he doesn't have to slowly follow me around, I suggest he go out to get some quick groceries at the supermarket across the street. He agrees and we go about our separate ways for a while. I go around with a basket and pick my stuff up along with pain meds, taking my time, then head to the counter up front. This is where the entitled dad and his son come into play. The son was quiet the entire time, didn't say a word. As I'm standing in line, I put my basket down next to me and hold on to my cane. As mentioned before, it hurts to stay standing still for too long, and my hands start to wobble a bit as I'm struggling. ED is behind me in line and makes a snide remark about me struggling to stand, saying how I should quit being a drama queen. You can wait. I turn to him and glare for a few seconds before replying, I have a bad leg, I can't stand for too long, in a deep, irritated tone before turning away. As I do, this man has the absolute nerve to walk over and picks up my basket and starts rummaging through my items. I turn and demand loudly, put down my basket now, to ensure I grab other people's attention. He scoffs and hands it to his son, who's about maybe 6 years old and carrying their own basket, and keeps rummaging, picking out and commenting on my snacks, and gets to my pain meds. What are you, some sort of junkie? What's with all the painkillers? You're getting off on these, aren't you? There's only 3 other people in line who are either staring or trying not to get involved. I ignore his question and ask for my basket back. This angers ED, and he asks again in a much louder voice. You're getting off on these, aren't you? As he throws the stuff back into the basket. I'm almost up to the counter next, but I walk a bit closer as my leg was now starting to feel a bit stiff, and ask once again for my basket. ED shouts, fine! And as I hold my hand out to grab it, he, instead of handing it to me, throws it forward towards me. I'm only 5'7" inches, and this man was about 6 foot something. Pretty tall guy, and threw it at chest height as if tossing a basketball. So basically, he tossed it at my head. I put my hands up not to catch it, but to block it from hitting me in the face. As soon as it hit me, I was knocked backwards, stumbling with my leg in pain from the sudden movement as I tried to catch my balance or grab onto something, anything, so I wouldn't hit the floor. If I had fallen against the counter, it would have been much better as I'd still be standing, but I fell straight on my butt and onto my back. The rope around my wrist from my cane coupled with the momentum made the cane spin back, and I landed on it with my right arm. I can't tell you how much I screamed and cried in agony as I fell and lay there trying to move my body to my right side. I can't even sit down normally without pain, and have to lean most of my body to the right whenever I sit down on the toilet seat, at the dinner table, or even sitting upright on my soft mattress. Any weight or pressure on my leg makes it hurt, and it's uncomfortable and gives me backaches, so landing hard straight down was absolute hell. The other customers, as well as the cashier and store manager, started shouting at the guy while trying to help me up. I declined, wanting to stay on the floor, as it'd be much better than if I was sitting or standing, and demanded loudly for the cops to be called and to not let the man go, as I was sure as shit going to be pressing charges. ED doubles down and shouts back at everyone else, "I mean, look at him! He's exaggerating, he's not hurt. Look at all these pain meds," walks to my basket and takes out my stuff he's buying. He's probably getting high off of these. How in the F? No one person needs this many Tylenol. He's an addict. He doesn't even need this. He proceeds to kick my cane away, but the strap is still around my wrist. It's all fake. It's an act. As he's finishing his stupid speech, his voice is starting to shake as I'm guessing he's realized he's not going to win this one. He goes and grabs his son's hand, puts his basket down and tries to speed walk out of the store, muttering something along the lines of, "Come on, son's name, we don't need this, we'll go to another store." But one customer blocks his path, as well as the manager who's already on the phone with the dispatcher and saying officers are on their way. Upon hearing this, ED bolts, dragging his kid along and shoves the customer blocking his path into the metal detector near the entrance. ED stumbles as a woman with her child in a stroller start to walk in. ED is dancing left to right, trying to get past the woman who's now just standing there confused as to what's happening. The shoved customer gets back on his feet, runs up to ED, spins him around 180 degrees, and tackles him to the floor, keeping him pinned. Fast forward to my dad coming back and asking what the hell happened. I explained, as well as the other customers and manager. Police arrive after a while, and everyone starts to explain what happened. Statement was given, charges were pressed, and the ED was taken in cuffs to the backseat of a squad car. His son stayed behind and would be picked up by his aunt. The only thing he said was, "I'm sorry," before we left. I can totally understand why the OP would be so frustrated in this situation. It's not cool for that entitled dad to just go through their stuff and make rude comments about them struggling to stand. And then to question if the OP even needs their meds? That's just disrespectful and shows a lack of empathy. It's a good thing the OP stood up for themselves and got their basket back.